Hi and welcome to this week's Friday with me, Billy McLaughlin, where I cut through the fuss and get to the facts on the big bad world of AI and what it means for us as accountants, bookkeepers and finance professionals. Starting this week with more news from the government. We ended last week with lots of stuff from them. Well, this week they have launched some new guidance on how software developers specifically should be using AI. Now, this is tailored around generative AI or Gen AI, which is a type of artificial intelligence which can create original content from vast amounts of data. So we're talking images, text, video, all that type of stuff, but from data that it's being trained on. So HMRC are saying that this guidance should be used by software developers if it's going to be supporting end users to submit something to HMRC. So there are a few things here in terms of what they are saying. So first of all, the guidance that says that it has to be transparent. So this means users should be able to identify the source data and be aware of the possibility of things like bias and hallucinations. They've also said that they need to consider HMRC guidance and only use reliable source data, so not using blogs and things like that to train their software. Official HMRC publications and legislation is important. They've also said that it needs to be designed with human oversight. So I really like this one because if any of the tax rules are kind of nuanced, it needs to be very, very obvious to the user. They've also said to include strong data security and privacy measures, so GDPR. And I've been speaking to a few software developers over in the States and also in Australia, and things like GDPR is quite a difficult thing to overcome. So it's preventing people sort of incepting the UK market, and also making sure that it is ethical. So they're implementing continuous auditing of the software and making sure it complies with their standards. I think this is fantastic to see. I'm not sure if they're a little bit late to the party because there's a hell of a lot of software already out there, but it is really great to see that it's kind of like, what does good AI behavior look like from the software developer's point of view? Because as end users, as accountants, we are relying on the software to make sure that they are providing us with compliant AI software, essentially. So if you are using any of these products, make sure you are thinking kind of about like where AI is being used, what data goes in, and who is checking the outputs. Great to see this from the government, I would say. Just to add to that, they are also saying that products need to now be very transparent when they are using AI and say that it has AI in it. This is actually quite comical because the amount of products that are now using this as a buzzword is crazy. But that leads me on to my next point, which is about Firefox. So if you use Mozilla, is that how you say it, Firefox, then they are now giving you the ability to switch off their AI features, which I think is fantastic. Now, we're seeing AI kind of embedded in everything at the moment, and one part of me is saying, well, why wouldn't you want it to be used? So if you're using something like Xero, QuickBooks, Sage, you want AI to be training that model based on what you're doing so that then in the future it's learned and it's doing it for you. But when it comes to something like a web browser, you do want the ability to switch it off when you're dealing with sensitive information. So we might see more of this user or end user power as to whether AI is used in the products we're using. Next up, Anthropic, which seem to be just the best at the moment. They seem to be everywhere. And a few weeks ago, I mentioned their launch of Cowork, which is fantastic. Well, now they've added plugins to Cowork. And the idea here is that it can specialize into different departments. So you could use plugins to make sure that each department is getting the best out of that Cowork. It can automate specialised tasks such as legal document reviews and also maybe marketing, for example. I'm going to come back to the legal documents in a moment because that has caused widespread chaos. But you can now kind of tell Claude what you want it to do, so which tools you want it to pull the information from, how you want it to handle those workflows, and ultimately get a bit more of a consistent outcome for you and your practice. So if somebody's using one certain plugin, and someone else uses the same one, they get that kind of same response from the tool. I have spoken about Cowork before, and this really does level it up, but by leveling it up, we also do need to be mindful of the risks that that kind of brings with it. Now, I'm really excited to see how this is going to be used. I have visions of it maybe pulling down hours worked from unique tools rather than those that have got APIs into payroll software. This could maybe go into those specific tools that are designed for specific industries that don't have those APIs, pull down the hours worked by employees and maybe then feed them into the payroll software. Or even better, we could see it each week, each month, pulling down information, maybe making profitability per employee or per service. So there's going to be some really great use cases that I can see it bringing into the finance sector. My big warning here would be that we do need to be careful though. I'm going to come on to Multbook in a moment, but what information is this tool touching, and are we okay with it accessing that sensitive data? Now, I said I'd come back to that legal piece, and that is because the launch of these Cowork plugins has wiped billions of stock valuations across the world. We have seen huge global crashes. So Thomson Reuters, for example, they had 18% knocked off theirs. Wolters Kluwer had 13%. And it just shows that people are kind of seeing that the writing is on the wall of where this is going if we have access to AI tools that can do so much for us. So I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on this. Next up is what the press are going all the rage over, which is Multbook. If you don't know, this is a social platform only for AI agents. As a human, you can only observe, but you cannot participate. Very, very futuristic, a little bit scary. I did a video on this earlier on in the week with just a few questions people have on it, so that should tell you everything you need to know. However, I felt like it needed to be brought up again today because there are huge data concerns around this. So AI agents in here can communicate, comment, create communities, everything else, but it does raise questions around the permissions, who is controlling this. I mean, they're not conscious, but there is somebody behind this giving these AI agents these open prompts to give them access to go and just do whatever they want. And in practice, this can be quite scary to make sure none of our employees are allowing these models, these bots, to access our data and do with it what they wish. Now, having these autonomous agents kind of taking action, I think is super exciting. It's not theoretical anymore. We're seeing it happen. However, client data, credentials, passwords, any sort of permission that we give to our employees needs to now be very tightly controlled, that way they're not giving that over to the AI agents. And just because a tool is cool and hip and new, it doesn't mean it should be used, especially in a sector like ours, which is very, very sensitive. So as we see kind of regulation hit the market and we sort of tell our team about it, I also think sending out bulletins where new products like this hit the market, hit the press, become talked about. I don't think there's any harm in just sending out a kind of what is expected across the practice to the team when a new product like this comes to market of, hey, we were aware of this, but we do not condone it being used, or whatever it may be. And finally, some really exciting news if you live in Barnsley, which seems so random, but the UK government have announced that they are the new tech town. So on Tuesday, they have committed to helping local colleges, schools, businesses, the NHS to adopt AI and receive specialist government support over the next 18 months in terms of training, using and adopting artificial intelligence. We've seen Microsoft, Adobe, Google all backing this initiative and pledging to support local people to help them with jobs in the future when it comes to using AI within it. This is really great to see. They're saying that they want to focus innovation outside of London, which is brilliant. I'm not actually sure why they've chosen Barnsley. If anybody knows, please do let me know, but I haven't seen any reason why Barnsley is the chosen one. But it is really great to see, and I'm assuming this is kind of like a pilot, seeing how this goes, and then it'll be rolled out across the country. Now, if you are a practice in Barnsley, fantastic, because you would definitely have a leg up. Having said that, if you're a practice that specialises in tech growth, those are the businesses that are now going to be needing those accountants that really, really understand technology and artificial intelligence. So make sure that you reach out to them, get some marketing over to the businesses in Barnsley and get them on your books. There will definitely be more demand for those finance professionals that just understand a little bit more about this support that the government is offering. So definitely do some research and reach out to them. Hope you've all had a great week. I hope this video has been super useful. Let me know what you think. If you've read the newsletter, I also hope that's been a great read with your morning coffee. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you next